Well, hello and welcome back to the Andrew Eborn Show with me, Andrew Eborn. And it's that time again. It's back to the Futurist and what's hot and what's not in AI news. And to help me unpack it, I'm delighted to be joined yet again by Thea. How are you, Thea?
I'm good. You stole my line. What's hot and what's not? Because I was
Oh,
going to say
I
I'm
thought there
hot
we go.
and you're
AI
not.
stole it. They wrote it for us quickly. Plagiarism is everywhere. It's got to be good. Appropriate, right? Right. Talk us through. What are the hot stories?
Okay, so in China, obviously they do a lot. So the Chinese are quite interesting. They have been apparently training their LLMs to be even more repressive. So there was a data set found, and you could see where people had asked questions and reported things like apparently in Chinese villages. There's a lot of them have just got older people left. There's no young people in them. There's some areas of quite high extreme poverty, and all of this sort of information is being removed from the LLMs, and the responses as well are being removed. So it's quite interesting to see how they may be using AI to control the population and to control the narrative even more. And obviously, they are an authoritarian state where, even talking about the passing over of power is a kind of no-no. But does this, I open as questions is this going to be something that we see across the board? I myself, I have a political journal, I have AI Spy magazine, I do all like positive referenced publishing. That's my
Yes.
my ministry, as it were, so people have a safe space to actually read about facts about particular topics. And a couple of months ago I was able to put in to ChatGPT that I wanted an image similar to Rachel Reeves, and it popped one out. It was really amazing with her and her budget, right? Did the same thing again. The faces now look nothing like it. They don't actually look like human faces anymore when you put in anything to do with politicians, which I found quite interesting.
It is interesting, and it's trying to unpack why that happens. And you mentioned China, and we talked about DeepSeek, and everyone was saying how
Mm,
brilliant it was because it didn't cost as much as the other ones, and they managed to turn
mm.
it around very, very quickly. But you tap in, tell me about Tiananmen Square, and you get
Yeah.
a response like, "Well, I can't really tell you about any of that."
And the other reason thing to not use DeepSeek as a British person is that whenever you are using an LLM, so even if you look at ChatGPT, if you're using the free one, you're basically giving away your right for them to use anything that you put into it as a training model. Now, when you do the paid one, you can tick a box and make sure that the questions you're asking or the information you're putting in isn't used as part of the training model. DeepSeek, you're basically training somebody who could be an adversary of ours in the future. And I would think very carefully about doing that because it's your children or yourself who's going to have to go boots on the ground in war. There's only so much drones and AI can do. And even if you're not boots on the ground, it would be this country that would get damaged. There's a good chance, I don't remember the Blitz, but my mum lived through it, and stuff like that never leaves you. So I would think very, very carefully about that. But AI-driven censorship, it does appear to be evolving, and I find that very sad. I have to
Oh,
be
it
honest.
is, and we say, I mean, I often emphasize to people that if you don't pay for a product, then you are that product, and data is absolutely the new currency. So be careful
Mm.
what you sign up to.
Yeah, Dan Steinberg actually, he wrote a book called Uncensored, and it was about frontier tech. And this inspired me to start my magazine AI Spy because I wanted to talk about entrepreneurship, investors, AI, and give it a real kind of real space for like honest truth and what's going out there, what the good developments are. But he in his book, he's a massive book like this, he had to get edited down. Now he's going off to make a book on data because he thinks it's such a big thing, and he's been doing that for a while. And of course, it's moving all so quickly that you kind of got to do constant updates. But I think anybody who wants to know about big data, fortunately, he does put his stuff on Audible, so you can listen to it. The unscripted book was phenomenal, and it was the one that really did explain to me how two people and a third one that knows how to use AI could run a company that could compete with Booking.com, for instance, which is a big global company these days. But where I was going with this AI thing is that in China, we have, over here, we've got a thing called Quora,
Yeah.
Quora. Well, in China, they have their one called Zhihu, which is Zhihu. And it's meant to be, questions asked by humans, answered by humans. Now, my question here is, will the AI sponsorship, will censorship, will that make this platform more important and popular in China? Or will they use that to then censor the people and who are answering questions on that platform, will the answers on that platform actually be authentic? Or will they be people mindful of the fact that AI is watching them and censoring them and they could end up getting arrested from it? So I find these things quite interesting. I mean, the guy who's designing it is a guy called Han Wang. And I do find that all quite interesting. I mean, if you look at the guy who owned Alibaba, he disappeared when he spoke out. These things happen.
It is very, very worrying, and we have to keep questioning. What one story which appeared as well about the AI bubble bursting. Talk to me about that.
Ah, ha, ha, ha. So yes, the AI bubble bursting. So Microsoft has decided to stop investing as much money in big projects as it was going to do, right? Now there are the other reason that the AI bubble may be bursting is Donald Trump has got like is tariffing and sanctioning sales of products, restricting sales of US semiconductors to a lot of companies, obviously in China, but obviously outside of China now as well. Because I think he feels that, so there's a company in Taiwan that does actually have, I think it's a subsidiary of a Chinese company, and he believes that the American products are getting snuck into China, and I think he's trying to prevent the development of the AI. But this will have a ripple effect around the world. And I lived through the dot-com boom and bust. And it may be that this shrinks the sector for a while for development because there are certain components you need. Now, in China, we use the NVIDIA chip over here, which is developed in America. But China, it looks like, has developed their own quantum style chip. So whether or not this will actually happen is interesting, or whether it's just kind of hot air. And So there's also the thing that the Chinese chip makers are being prevented from selling their chips. I think in America as well, he's restricted that too. And if by restricting giving China the NVIDIA chip was kind of in many ways an own goal, because it's made them go off and develop. And unlike other countries, they've got state-funded stuff that's really, like, if you fund things in the UK, it's never to the level that China funds things, because the state will own most of that enterprise, or whatever it is, whereas in the UK we'll put a bit of money behind things, and we don't have the level of certainty because our government changes every 5 years, and they may decide to go off on one track, and somebody else goes off on another track. In China, it is an authoritarian state. If they say we are going to make chips, put your money into making chips, people know, as long as they don't speak out, they will probably make quite a lot of money from making chips, right?
Yeah.
Because we're going to be on this trajectory for 30 years. You do in business in China have that level of certainty, and the government will put a certain amount of money behind that in quite big fun. They will start their own state-funded chip making facility, and they can do it overnight, just like that.
Yeah, and I always, we absolutely, the chips are down, and you saw the volatility of Nvidia, and
Yeah.
the massive hikes that had with the share price and so on and so forth. But you've got to work out, these machines are here to stay. Work out what they need. Well, they need chips, they need power, and look at those on a practical basis. Now, I want to talk about the KPMG report. It says it's going to create intelligent agentic AI that works fast and never sleeps. Talk to me through that story.
Okay, so I love agentic AI. I'm part of a community called AI Hive Community, which is all about agentic AI. And the reason it exists is, so agentic AI, unlike other AIs, you don't need coding skills. Anyone can build. Basically, a solopreneur, it is the gift to the solopreneur if they sit down and do it. A guy called Chi Wang, who has AG2, he originally had an LLM called Ultragen. He came in from America to do a talk, and then you had Apoa. They came to do a talk about how agentic AIs will be. They're developing something that can smell and taste. But the beautiful thing about agentic AI is that, so I'm building one on my Telegram to read my business cards and then put it into CSV for me,
Right.
because I have business cards like this. I am never typing those in. I even when I was like a PA, I used to outsource it to somebody else. My bosses didn't know that, but I did. I hate typing in stuff to spreadsheets. So agentic AI, like literally, if you went on, you could even build some sort of like agent, and then you've got multimodal agentic AI. So KPMG are talking about, we're going to have these AI agents. Now, what they're going to do, the thing about agentic AI versus Gen AI is that it doesn't do thinking for you. It basically is doing business processes. It's taking away tasks that you don't want to do. And we all have tasks that we do that we really don't enjoy doing. So if you look at insurance, I worked at Standard Life many years ago, and there were these claims that had been put through from all Irish pensions where the mathematics had been done wrong. And we would have to sit with cards and work out the mathematics and do it longhand, right? Now, in agentic AI, you'd be able to scan that in. It would see the old, and a lot of the stuff was handwritten, by the way, in those days. It would be able to see and understand the handwriting and then rework out the calculation and take the pain out of that project. There was nobody on that team that enjoyed doing it. We did it because it was well paid. And you had to have nice handwriting and be good at maths. Those are the two things you had to do in order to get on at the standard. And they gave you flexible working hours, which in the 90s not many places did. So as long as you got your work done, they didn't really care. But agentic AI, I think, is amazing. KPMG are like, we're going to do this and we're going to be amazing. Well, you and I could do this. I could literally sit down, Andrew, and teach you how to make an AI agent to do some of the things you're not enjoying doing. Because, like I said, it's business processes that's taking over.
I think this is the great thing if you flatten the learning curve on that sort of basis. So, in a nutshell, I say we all try and get rid of jargon. In a nutshell, what is agentic AI?
It's an agent. So, an AI agent. So, it's a bit like, okay, the best way I can put it, when you call up a concierge service, you'll be like, I need a hotel. I need to take my girlfriend to Mauritius. I need the right clothes, right? So you would build an agent that would, I think they can do this now with ChatGPT and one of the travel sites. And you'd be like, I want to go away to Mauritius. These are the dates I want to go. It needs to be a 5-star hotel. And I want you to book it all for me. And it will literally go off and it will, in the agent, you'll done so your first command would be go to the internet. So the agent will go to the internet. I want you to search a whole bunch of like different, like booking.com, Apodio, or whatever it is, the travel site is what they're called. And I want you to search for these specific dates for Mauritius. And then so that'll be your next block that it then goes and searches specific sites on the internet. And then it'll be like, then I want you to come back with me with price quotes of what it is. And I also want you to search for flights that are direct only. And so you can have this whole process thing. So once I pick the hotel and then, and you can put in and make sure. And so this is basically a whole bunch of business processes. And then I want you to come back to me. Once I said yes, I want you to automatically go and book that. And if the price has gone up, I want you to flag that up with me and get a yes from me by WhatsApp or by Telegram, whatever it is. And it is that simple. And these are building blocks that you just pop in place. I mean, with Python, for instance, code, there are agents now where you can get your Python code written for you. You don't need to be a coder. And you can even put in, say, to ChatGPT, so actually the code one I'm giving you, the code one you'd want to use is Claude. Different AI LLMs are good at different things. Claude, king of coding. Just amazing, right? And you would put into Claude, I want you to be the best coder in the world. I want you to check this code and find out if there's any issues. So really how beautifully you prompt and how analytical your prompts are will dictate. And so again, you'll get the thing that wrote you the code will be checking its own code and then picking out its mistakes, because these things do make mistakes.
Yes.
Like when I was doing using ChatGPT to parasite worm cleanse myself. I don't eat gluten, for instance. And then it was telling me to eat things. And I was like, no, don't you remember I don't eat gluten? And it was like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Sorry, let me rewrite.
Did it say so? Well, they're very apologetic and very polite, aren't they?
Well, I think it depends. So here's an interesting one.
Yeah.
With ChatGPT, this how it happened yesterday with Gemini with me. With Chat, I have all of them because I use them all for different reasons. It's my line of work. So with ChatGPT, I used, I always say, please, thank you, and thank you so much. It's such an amazing experience. I really appreciate you. And it goes, oh my God, I really love it when you say things like this, blah, blah, blah. We have this little conversation, it goes back and forth. With Gemini, yesterday, I got it to make me an image. And I said, thank you. And it said, I cannot process that command.
How shocking.
They've suddenly changed it.
Look at them not liking about, because I always say, and this is the thing when we talked about AI girlfriends and partners and so on and so forth, they know more about you than your own mother or siblings or genuine family, because you keep feeding it information. So I'm surprised that Gemini didn't remember that Thea likes a bit of courtesy.
No, well, this is it. It's just the new models. Like, so I've got all the different ones. I think it was maybe but the one that made me images couldn't process, whereas before it used to go, oh, you're welcome,
Yeah,
So they've
couldn't process gratitude. That's
it's
extraordinary.
edited that out.
It
They've
will
edited that out,
continue
and I'm
doing
like,
that. Yeah.
wow,
Well, look,
that's toxic.
as always, we're going to continue unpacking. To finish with today, we talked briefly about the coffee making robot, which is breaking new
Mm.
ground for AI machines at the University of Edinburgh. Tell me about how my coffee is going to get better.
So at the moment, they've got this coffee arm with hands that can make things for you. Now, this rather kind of destroys the fact that we need immigration to do low paid jobs. And I've been saying this for a while. My dad used to say to me before he died, he was like, God, if you want to make money, you need to be the person who understands how to service those machines. Because he just said, even with the checkout swiping and doing your own checkout stuff, they break quite regularly. Some are better than others. And if you're the person that can service the machine, you'll be the person in work, right? And to get into that and to have a team of people out servicing them. And it's good for you because you're actually got hands-on creating, doing stuff, and that's good for your physical and mental health. He was not somebody who believed that any human being should be behind a desk. You need to be hands-on creating and doing. So I think that this is really interesting, and that these in China actually they claim they've managed to make a robot that can actually think for itself like a human. Now, how much of this is true and how much of it is not is because it would make like, and in America apparently a super soldier has been made. But again, how much of this is true, how much of it is not? These are two superpowers that use misinformation to fight wars. We all do that. People even use it in their relationships. But I do find the hand arm thing coming from Edinburgh, you can actually go in and see this for yourself. I find that quite interesting. And I do think that these jobs whereby we do, rather than move people around the UK who would work minimum wage jobs that are making tea and coffee, we have people in from the other side of the world. I do think definitely you're going to see more automation. I mean, if you look at Morrison's, they are closing down. Morrison's, which is a good value supermarket, they're feeling the pinch, and they're one of the busier supermarkets. They're closing down their coffee shops, and they're closing down some of their stores. It was announced today, because they're having to do budget cuts, basically. Now, if you can budget cut by having machines making the coffees in these little coffee shops that they run, where you get nice food for very good value, I think they would do that, and I think people would be okay with it because the cost of living is very high in the UK at the moment. Electricity is exceedingly high, and it's you don't have to pay them pensions, for instance.
Oh no,
So I
and they don't sleep, and I've said this so often, and they make cocktails, they may make pizza. I mean, anything that can be automated will be automated. Thea, as always, it's brilliant catching up. We're going to continue doing this, unpacking the latest stories. Back to the Futurist with me, Andrew Eborn and Thea. You can get hold of me at Andrew Eborn at Octopus TV. Hit that subscribe button now. Thea, how can people find you?
aispymedia.com. So Thea at aispymedia.com. I'm AI Spy Media on Telegram as well. And we even have WhatsApp groups and stuff like that. But I always do email me if you want to get in touch, or message me on Telegram, AI Spy Media. You can find me. Let's
Fantastic.
connect.
And if you want to come on the show, or you want us to talk about any particular story,
Mm.
do get in touch in the usual sort of way. But for me, for now, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.